This is TWiT.
So we talked last time you were on, in fact, Mike, about the Federalist saying, the story that everybody published that you debunked, that the Federalist was being demonetized by Google. The theory was, Google is against conservative thought and they're defunding us. But that's actually not the case. And now it's happened to you. This is automatic, right?
Yeah. So they have these systems, these bots that go and are constantly monitoring different websites that have AdSense on it. And what we had written originally about with the Federalist was that we had gotten similar notices, but we got them once every month or once every 2 or 3 months. We would suddenly get a notice from Google and was saying there's a problem on this particular article, and it was usually our comments, something in our comments that they didn't like and they didn't want their ads to appear next to it. And that's apparently what they had told the Federalist, and the Federalist turned into this big thing that Google was against them for their conservative viewpoints.
But that's always a concern for advertisers. It's with our advertisers too. They don't want to be in an environment that doesn't reflect well on them. So that's why it's difficult. YouTube's difficult. Twitter's difficult. And so it makes perfect sense that AdSense would be monitoring the pages that the ads are going to appear on. And if there's anything controversial, they'll say, okay, well, you're not going to get an ad until that goes away.
Right. Mike, what was it? Well, do you know what the content was?
Well, this is the problem. So what happened was 2 weeks ago, suddenly, instead of getting like one every 2 or 3 months, we started getting like 2 or 3 notices every day. You would have to, and there would be no information in the notice. You would have to log into the platform, and then it would give you very little information, but it would list out, it kept changing. So somewhere between 20 and 30 URLs. Some, were very, very old. Some didn't even exist. My favorite one was one that didn't even exist. If you clicked on it, it would just take you to the front page of TechDirt. What my two favorites were the tag page for Google was deemed dangerous and derogatory. And so therefore they could not put ads on that. And then the second one, which felt somewhat ironic, was that the tag page for content moderation was also deemed dangerous or derogatory.
Is this kind of some sort of automated, like the Content ID system on YouTube, some sort of automated thing that's just dumb and looks for keywords?
It sounds like there was maybe like an update sent, and it just, bad code. You get garbage in, you get garbage out. Like it seems like it was.
That's what I thought, and I had actually emailed some people at Google and said, hey, did something go haywire? Because suddenly, now we were getting like 2 or 3 of these messages every day, and the list kept changing. We weren't doing anything, and so URLs that were bad would suddenly disappear from the list, and the new ones would appear, and there was no explanation for it. And so I said, did something go haywire? And they said, nope, nothing's changed. And the feedback I got was basically like, we'll pass along your criticism to the teams about how to better communicate. And it's like, that doesn't help me. And then we just sort of kept getting, angrier and angrier messages. Whereas in the past, usually they would just say, we just won't put ads on this page. And to us, we're like, fine, whatever. We don't get money for that page, no problem. But now they started putting these notices that said, you must fix it. And then they told us if we weren't able to fix these things, and again, they weren't very clear as to what the problem was, by the end of August, that they were going to cut us off. And then it just got worse and worse. And we just said, forget it. I don't want to spend all my time dealing with this. So we pulled all the ads down. And so right now we have no ads on the site other than, sort of house ads.
Yikes.
And we're trying to figure out what we're going to do about it. But, right now we're not making advertising revenue. So
that's terrible. You really are defunded.
Well, but you're also, so you're not earning revenue, but they're not earning revenue either. So it seems like if this is happening across the board,
they don't want this.
There would be somebody within the organization looking around for broken code, is what it sounds like to me.
Well, but again, but our experience of Google on this stage, they're relying totally on automated tools, and it's muck-up central. It really is. Mike, sorry, I interrupted.
No, that's okay. I mean, the thing is, that was my assumption too, is that they had code that had gone haywire, but we haven't heard other sites having the same sort of, sudden rush of notices. And we've reached out to people at Google, and the response that we've gotten is that, no, this was an accurate thing. And so if you want to keep having the ads on your site, you have to fix it. And again, like, what do we fixing
fix?
It mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so even in the cases where, in some articles like I could figure out, like, yeah, sure, they probably don't like these particular comments, or, we had some articles about the George Floyd protests that were pretty angry because we think that's a situation worth being angry about, and they said that was shocking content. And so, like, okay, that's shocking content, but we're not going to change that just because Google doesn't like it. If they don't want to put ads on that page, fine. But, like, things like the tag page for Google, what are we supposed to change on that? I'm not going to be nice to Google just so that Google keeps the ads on the page. If that's the problem, I think that's a bigger deal. Trying to influence our coverage, like, hey, that's not cool.
Advertisers do that. We sell our ads direct. We don't go through a service like Google AdSense. And we've had advertisers. We had an advertiser back in April say, well, we don't want to be on any content that mentions COVID-19.
You're not alone on that. We've had the same problem.
So we said, well, no, sorry.
Stuff that way.
Yeah, we won't let advertisers dictate editorial. I understand, though, advertisers are trying to avoid controversy. So, because their interest is pure commerce. They just want to sell a product. They don't want to get people mad at them. So I understand that. But why, for instance, did Google suddenly say that your newsletters, your daily emails are phishing?
Yeah, that was the other thing, that the exact same day that this started, all of our daily newsletters, which are just the literally like a snapshot of the day's blog sent out as an email, were put into phishing. And so for people who had G Suite, they were just automatically deleted, and you got a note saying, we're not showing you TechDirt's newsletter today because it was a phishing attempt. And for people who just had Gmail, it was put into spam with big red warning letter, on top saying this is consistent with a phishing email. We're like, where's the phishing aspect? We're not asking anyone to sign in. It's just a snapshot of a blog, of all the stories of the day. And so,
Mike, you've got to have. So I was just thinking, I wonder if there's a totally different issue, which is that you've been blacklisted. Like, somebody blacklisted the domain, somebody else who doesn't like either what you're writing or doesn't like you, or
that's what I'm wondering. If is there community moderation? Are there tools of some kind
that was some people said that, and people were saying, like, maybe people were even like putting specific comments on the site in order to try and get us demonetized, that's
what's happened before, is the comment pages have brought you down.
Yeah.
Which is why a lot of publications have separate pages for content.
Well, there are plenty
of
there's plenty of tools where you can list or delist URLs, domains, right?
Black hole them.
I just wonder if somebody's
out to get you.
Whatever reason. Yeah.
Or Google has decided that the word dirt should never appear on a page with advertising. I mean,
it's possible. That
day will come.
It's possible. I mean, the thing, honestly, what would make this better, though, is if at least they would explain to us what the deal is, right? I mean, the only information that we get is, this was deemed dangerous and derogatory, or this was deemed shocking. And it's like, well, how do we fix that? Right. And it's like, I'm not gonna try and figure out how to make our page on Google not something that they find derogatory. Like, that's not worth it in any sense of the word. And so, like,
it's the kind of thing that would make Kafka just
Yeah, it's very Kafkaesque, isn't it? Yeah.
They probably don't know, and they don't have a work stream or a unit set up to try to do like a reverse digital forensic investigation to figure it out. I mean,
content moderation is hard at scale.
Yeah.
And there's no bigger scale than Google and Facebook, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is the thing, right? I mean, like, one of the articles that like last year that we got in trouble for, the same thing was the article about, not that it's hard at scale, that it's impossible to do well at scale. And the funny story was that we got that article deemed dangerous and derogatory too, where we were trying to explain why these things happen and why we understand why these things happen.
The first rule of content moderation is you don't talk about content moderation.